everybody, I'm Wildman Wes, and welcome to another edition of Planet Powerbomb. We are pretty much about less than 24 hours away from WrestleMania 34 in New Orleans, so I figured I would give a little quick recap on last night's Hall of Fame induction ceremony, since normally it's supposed to be on Saturday, but they switched it this year for the NXT TakeOver going on later tonight. Hopefully you'll all be able to watch that. I'm kind of looking forward to it, but at the same time, with everything going on, with going to C2E2 yesterday, as well as having to watch WrestleMania 34 for my review coming up probably by Monday morning. Yeah, it's going to be a tough one. But anyways, we're going to get right into a recap of the Hall of Fame. Pretty good for the most part. Some moments that kind of, hit or miss, but we're going to get into that. I'm pretty much just going to give a brief synopsis on each person that was getting inducted when it happened. So, first one was the Dudley Boyz. They were inducted by Edge and Christian. Right before they were announced to come out, Edge and Christian, as usual, making a lot of their, goofball behaviors, cracking jokes about things. However, they did admit that if it weren't for people like the Dudleys as a tag team, their career as a tag team wouldn't be as effective, as well as the big three-way dance on the tag team division between Edge and Christian, the Dudley Boyz, and the Hardy Boyz. So as the Dudley Boyz came out and gave their acceptance speech, they pretty much said the exact same stuff that Edge and Christian were saying. If it weren't for teams like the Hardys or Edge and Christian and people like the Road Warriors that they grew up to, idolizing, they wouldn't be as effective a tag team as they had been. I mean, they pretty much won every tag team division title in pretty much every company they were in. And they were very humble, and it was really cool to see them back again. And apparently they went over the whole time slot, and their music went off, and one of the crew members came out and tried to apologize. And in epic Dudley Boy fashion, Bubba Ray told Devon to get the table, and they put that guy right through it. It was just epic. I loved it. Next on the list, we have Hillbilly Jim, who was inducted by Mouth of the South, Colonel Jimmy Hart. Jimmy Hart, as usual, he's, kind of a loudmouth, but he tells some really funny stories about Hillbilly Jim, and not just funny, but also very wholehearted and very humbling stories about Hillbilly Jim getting into the business and how he never left the WWE after being in, part of the business since the early 80s in the Hulkamania era. Well, when Hillbilly Jim came out, still humble as ever. I remember watching him as a kid doing his little shtick about just being the good old country boy. And he told some stories about how you should always take opportunities seriously. And me as an entertainer, as well as like DJC and Big Bad Wolf Benny, anytime opportunity knocks, we have to take it, regardless of what segment or what episode we do on this channel. And it struck a chord with me. He also told, there was one Andre the Giant story. I wish I could remember everything about it. I think it had to deal with, they were on an airplane, and Andre was known for his drinking abilities, and he and Hillbilly Jim started off with the vodka, and then they started off with the rum, and then the wine, and the list goes on, and the stewardess goes to get the captain. Captain comes back to see what was going on, and it looked like something out of a movie, where when he saw who was drinking, took the hat off and walked right back into the cockpit. I'm glad I just remembered that now. He also wanted to dedicate the Hall of Fame to a late announcer, Wes Strader, who said that I have the best job in the world. I can do what I want, when I want, and where I want to do it. And, for a lot of us as entertainers, whether we're doing this on YouTube or in movies or on TV, this is one of the greatest platforms of work ever, regardless of what we're getting paid. It doesn't matter. I mean, we have fun doing what we do, right? So that definitely struck a chord with me as well. He also dedicated the Hall of Fame induction to a lot of the friends that he had in the business that are no longer with us. Most importantly, earlier this week, we lost a legend and a Hall of Famer, Johnny Valiant, who unfortunately was struck by a truck walking across the street. He was 71 years old, and my condolences go out to the wrestling community as well as the family of Johnny Valiant. He also brought up other people like Alfred Hayes, Jimmy Snuka, Gorilla Monsoon, a couple others, and also most importantly, as you can see, as I'm wearing, the late Roddy Piper, since they were both on the recent Legends House on the WWE Network. So, like I said, Hillbilly Jim, always humble, and I've always had the most respect for him, so I'm glad that he's in this year. So moving on, we go on to the legacy section of the Hall of Fame, where they take a lot of people from yesteryear and just kind of clump them into one. Now, for me personally, some of these people on the list I think really should have had their own personal induction. However, I'm just going to go off the list as quick as possible. We had Stan the Man Stasiak, who might be known better as the father of Sean Stasiak. I believe he is. I might have to look at my research a little bit later. If I am wrong, make sure you leave a comment in the section below and let me know that I screwed up. But anyways, we also have El Santo, who is known all throughout Mexico as the greatest professional wrestler to come from there. He had TV shows about him, he had cartoons about him, and he was so enamored with his character, or he took it so seriously, that even when he passed away, he requested he was buried wearing his iconic mask. Also, we have Jim Londos, we have Sputnik Monroe, we have the great Boris Malenko, who is the father of Dean Malenko. We have, in women's division in Legacy, Cora Combs. We also have, Darren Singh. We have Hiro Matsuda, who is also well known for training Hulk Hogan and also breaking his leg, I believe, what the story entails. We also have Rufus R. Jones, and of course, Lord Alfred Hayes. So, and like I said, this is just kind of the Hall of Fame's way of giving a shout out. I get it, but there are some people on this name that really, I feel, do deserve kind of their own personal induction ceremony, but that is neither here nor there. Next up in the Hall of Fame, we have for our women's division, Ivory. She was inducted by Molly Holly and announced in by none other than Lillian Garcia. They had a little talk before she came out about how Ivory was always with her cat whenever she traveled. She always took time to visit people and visit sites while she was on the road to go to another event, because life is too short. You should always embrace everything around you. When Ivory came out, she talked a little bit about how much she loved New Orleans, because that's where she got her start. It was full circle when she started in Glow in 1986. And then around in 2005, she went back down around Georgia to help with the Katrina relief for the lost and injured animals. She wanted to thank the fans, all the people that were, in her life and helped her in her career. She made a lot of Ric Flair jokes, whether about him being in the Hall of Fame twice, being married multiple times. She admitted she has never been married herself, but she feels that she was married to the business, and gave kind of this quote-unquote fairy tale story of how it would all turn out, of who would be her bridesmaids, who would be the groomsmen, how the vows would be taken. I mean, she gave a lot of shout-outs to the performers in the women's division who are no longer with us. She mentioned Luna. She mentioned China, which was awesome because, we don't know when China's actually going to be going into the Hall of Fame, but at least she's being acknowledged after all this time. And it's unfortunate that she's being acknowledged after she's, passed away. She also mentioned Mae Young and Moolah. So she gave her vows, pretty much saying that she I-do's with the whole professional wrestling career. Moving on to the celebrity wing of the Hall of Fame, we have Kid Rock. He was inducted by Triple H, and Triple H pretty much said that Kid Rock was very, very in the know when it came to music during the Attitude Era. If it weren't for people like Kid Rock performing songs for like The Undertaker, or even doing the WrestleMania theme for this year in New Orleans, as well as back at WrestleMania 30 when it was in New Orleans as well. Now, when Kid Rock came out, there was a little bit of a mixed crowd. People were laughing, people were kind of groaning, but still, he had a good turnout. He started off making some jokes about politics and not being able to thank Vince, but he went on and did it anyways, and he got a little cheap pop and a cheap heat from the crowd, but he then turned it around and actually, got the crowd on his side when he talked about he understands what it's like to be on the road all the time as a performer, and he totally understands why the wrestlers feel like their job is difficult at times being on the road. So I totally respect him for that. And of course, when he gave his thanks to all his family and friends, he gave a huge tribute to the late Joe C., who was part of his band. And I definitely, I liked that a lot because, you know, when Josie passed away, a lot of us that were whether hardcore fans of Kid Rock or just appreciated some of the songs that came out, especially with Josie in some of those songs, yeah, it is definitely, you know, a nice little send-off. Next up in the Hall of Fame, we have Double J, Jeff Jarrett. He was inducted by Road Dogg Jesse James, or a.k.a. The Roadie, when he was working with Jeff Jarrett in the mid-90s in WWF. Now, when Road Dogg was inducting him, he did want to tell a couple of stories about, you know, when they were together on WWF, and he said he had to water them down because obviously it's now PG. We're no longer in the Attitude Era, so it is what it is. When Jeff Jarrett did come out, you could tell there was a lot of tension because most of us know after Jeff Jarrett left the WWF roughly around 2000, 2001, I believe, and it might even been earlier than that. It was actually, no, it was 1999, now that I think about it, because 2001 was when WWF bought out WCW, and Vince McMahon, of course, made the comment, you know how he spells his name, Jeff, double R, double T, well, and then he says the G-O-N, the Gone thing. You could tell he was kind of burying Jeff Jarrett within their company. But it is nice that Jeff Jarrett is in this Hall of Fame of WWE. He gave a big shout out to Shawn Michaels, who said that, you know, basically, if it weren't for people like Shawn, he wouldn't have had as great matches and kept his career having a good longevity in the WWF at the time. And he gave some shout-outs to a couple other people. Most importantly is the late, great Owen Hart, because they had a tag team together roughly before Owen's passing, and Owen and Jeff were really good friends. And he started talking about a couple of funny stories that Owen and he had back in the... One of them had to deal with like Hacksaw Jim Duggan having to be ordered a pizza like at 2 o'clock in the morning at a hotel. Another one had to deal with Ahmed Johnson at the Allstate Arena in Chicago. I can't remember all the details. If anything, watch the Hall of Fame. If you haven't yet, you'll get a little more in-depth detail on that story. And he finished it off a little bit with a story about Edge and Christian fighting Owen and himself. And when they got knocked down, Edge and Christian turn around and they see that they are wearing big clown noses. Well, as he's telling the story, Edge and Christian come back out from the back, and they put the clown nose on him. So there was a nice little rib, and, you know, as this speech progressed, people started to like Jeff Jarrett again. Even myself, I like Jeff Jarrett now, seeing him do this, because, like I said, at the beginning, when he first came out, there was a little animosity. There was a lot of silence in the crowd. They didn't know what to do. But he ended with Road Dogg coming out, and they sang their duet of With My Baby Tonight that they had done back in the mid-90s. And they even went out into the crowd, in the audience, around, you know, a lot of the superstars, and had them sing along with him. And I thought that was pretty cool. Next up, we have the Warrior Award that's given out every year in honor of the Ultimate Warrior and people that are overcoming a lot of, you know, hardships within their life. This year, it goes to a young man named Jarrett Robertson, who had been dealing with a lot of liver disorders. He'd gone through 2 transplants, I believe. He's about 15 years old, but he, you know, due to the surgeries and everything, he looks a lot, you know, younger than he is. However, I thought it was kind of funny when he first came out because of his size. He had to lean up on the microphone saying, "Hey, you know, this isn't going to work," and they bring out a step stool. And his positive energy throughout his speech was phenomenal. I mean, I choked up a lot on it. And he made a joke on The Miz because he's not a big fan. He was giving a big shout out to Roman Reigns for WrestleMania, and he ended it with a little bit of a rib on John Cena. So, I mean, I know the Warrior Award, you know, a lot of people question it a little bit because originally it had to... Well, at least the Warrior himself said that there should be at least an award for somebody behind the scenes. But in this situation, I can understand. They're at least trying to give fans and people that are, you know, having hardships in their life, that are lifelong fans of professional wrestling, a chance to actually feel, you know, the same love that they give to their, you know, favorite superstars. Next on the list, we have Mark Henry. He was inducted by The Big Show. two big guys. I mean, come on, what can you say? The whole speech that Mark Henry gave was very, very moving. He talked a lot about how when he was a kid at a professional wrestling event, he got knocked down by the kids around him, and Andre the Giant, of all people, helped him up. And that was pretty much the send-off of what he wanted to be when he got older. And I like that. I like that as a good start to his speech. And he talked a little bit more about his career of doing pretty much his, weightlifting and whatnot for the Olympics, and the accidental hang-up on Vince McMahon. A little funny story about that before he even got into the company. Talked a little bit about the late great Ernie Ladd and some of the talks that they had before he got into the business. So the part that really hit me hard in his speech was about Owen Hart. And he had the camera pulling close, and he even tried to beseech Martha to have him be inducted because he deserves it and the fans want it. And honestly, I can't think of anything more appropriate than for Owen Hart to be in the Hall of Fame, because I'm surprised Jeff Jarrett really didn't say anything, but Mark Henry was just as close to Owen as Jeff Jarrett was during their time in the Nation of Domination. He then went on to try to troll the audience about saying he's going to retire, but now he's still got a little more fight left in him. He also gave a lot of shout-outs to the Nation, The Rock, his family, China. He even mentioned China. Thank God for that. The one thing that I kind of, shook my head at is he didn't give the shout-out to Mae Young. I mean, that kind of sucks, but regardless, I'm droning on that one, because other than that, Mark Henry had an amazing speech, and, you could feel the love that he has for the company as well as he has for the fans, and you could definitely see it being reciprocated from the fans as well. Now to close out the Hall of Fame with the headliner, we have Bill Goldberg. He was inducted by Paul Heyman, and, well, this one, I have nothing against Goldberg. I really shouldn't. It's just the energy in the crowd was very, very flat. When Goldberg came out and started giving his speech, he started off with Jewish jokes, and it was just kind of like, okay, I get it, you're Jewish, I get it, but most of the jokes he was making was kind of like Fozzie. It's like, waka waka. It's just like, oh man, it is what it is. He started off sounded kind of cocky about how his career was so great and being undefeated, but then again, it's nothing but squash matches. I guess you can, chalk that one in the records. But he did do a lot of talk about WCW. I will give props that he admitted he ripped off Stone Cold Steve Austin. At first he tried to act like he wasn't, but at least he admitted it after all this time, and said that he sucked in 2003, so I can't hate Goldberg too much for at least admitting some of his faults. He did give some credit to some people throughout WCW and WWE. Other than that, just as he got on to talking a little bit more about some stories in WCW, it did kind of drone on a little bit. It did seem a little boring, and I don't know, I just feel like he didn't know what to talk about, and he ended with saying he got more money in a payoff than the NFL, so I don't know, when I saw pictures on social media, people were saying that there was like empty seats pretty much when he went up to do his Hall of Fame. People were, leaving already. Of course, that could have been taken before the Hall of Fame started, and they were just trying to make a meme joke for all I know. But otherwise, that was the 2018 Hall of Fame. We hope you enjoyed this little segment. If there's things that you liked about this video or things you didn't like about it, make sure you leave a comment in the section below. Also, if there's anybody that you think that deserves to be in the 2019 Hall of Fame for WWE, leave a comment as well, and maybe we might be able to send some messages up to WWE and see if we might be able to get a petition for somebody else. Owen Hart. There, my hat is in the ring. Other than that, we make sure that you like, share, and as always, push the red button and ring that bell while you're at it. Until then, I'm Wildman Wes, and I will see you next time on one of many episodes and segments of Dragonfire Entertainment. Take care, and have fun watching WrestleMania 34 tomorrow, 7 hours at least. Bye.